Hello and welcome to one of our first online tutorials on banding or fixing of Hurleys. Now, the reason we fix Hurleys is because generally we get a lot of stuff that comes into the workshop and it comes to us maybe in sections like this. Now, the sections, they can be either completely apart, as you can see from this piece here, which will need to be completely re-glued, or they may just simply, like in the case of this hurl, they may simply just have a crack up the boss. Either case will involve me taking it, gluing the hurl back together using a specialised glue, specially for the job. Source this glue from Galway, and man supplies an awful lot of Hurley fixtures. It's Purcall Express. I like to use this glue because it can be used at any temperature. A lot of Hurley fixtures like to use a black type of glue, which is used for putting in windscreens, and that glue must be preheated before it can be used. But it's also an extremely messy glue. Whereas with this glue, Purcall Express, it is an expanding epoxy resin type glue. What that means is this glue will actually expand and fill any minor gaps in the hurl, and it will harden completely. Whereas the black window type glue will not harden completely and will always remain that little bit soft. You still have the flexibility with Purcall that you have with the black window glue, so it makes it an ideal glue for putting the Hurleys back together. The banding of the hurl then involves a couple of separate stages. First thing we must do is we must mount our hurl into the vise. So I have a large bench top vise, gets the job ready, holds it nice and secure. The next thing I will need then, here you can see, is a piece of banding. Here I have just pre-cut the banding and I have bent it down the bottom. So I have measured the banding over the top of the boss of the hurl, and that will allow me then to place it into my tensioners. My tensioners are simply just a little mechanism with a large bolt going through the head of it that can move up and down, and the bottoms here on each side will sit on the hurl. As they sit on the hurl and I tighten the bolt, it tightens the band, pulls the band up, as you can see here, it pulls the band up into the hurl. So here we go, we'll put it on top of our hurl, we simply knock it back into place. I must make sure, okay, so I must make sure that the band is where I want it to be on the hurl. I must make sure that it's tight, must make sure that it is secure. So I generally hit it a tap with the hammer, top and bottom, just to make sure it's in the proper place. Start applying the tension. As I apply the tension, I must also keep an eye on my two screws on the side, which are what holds the band in place. This stops the band from splitting and allows me to get the required tension into the hurl that I need. If I put on a band that is loose, it has no effect. It will not stop the hurl from cracking again. By keeping the band tight, as I pull on the little handle, it stretches out the band almost like a rubber band, and the band then will tighten around the boss of the hurl. By tightening around the boss of the hurl, it will squeeze the wood fibres together and will stop them from expanding whenever they get a slap or a bang again, and hence stop the crack, or should in theory stop the crack. Now, there is no foolproof method to stop a Hurley from cracking. This is one of the ways to stop. After it has broke, we put it back together and the bands will give us that extra strength. Once we're happy with the tension, I like to use a staple gun rather than the traditional hammer and nails, because I find that the nails become loose over time and fall out quite easily. Whereas with the nail gun, with specialised staples in it, the staples, simply as you would have in a stapler for inside, you have your staples come in a long little row, and as you can see there, the trench down the middle, they fit into the gun and they will go specially into the metal strap. Now again, these are specialised staples, they're not just the normal ones you would get in your local hardware. So put them in. In order to get the far side, I have to take it out, but before I do that, I always give it an extra tension, just to give it that extra stretch. Put the band on again. And shoot it in. Now I always try not to put a staple into the crack, in where I have just actually fixed the thing. So once I've got my band in place and I'm happy, I can loosen my tensioner. Give me a chance just to show you the tensioner. So on the bottom of the tensioner here, you can see there's an opening, and in that opening, it allows then, by opening these pieces here, it allows me then to take my metal strip this is my roll of banding. It allows me to take my metal strip and place it inside the bander. I can then cut that to length and use this for tightening. Once I have these nailed, I then use the front of my vise. And what this is doing is it's just tightening the staples back in place. So it's just giving that extra bang in with the hammer, tighten them back in place. I then must fix the band over the bottom of the Hurley. Must bang it into place again with the hammer, making sure that I bend it around the Hurley. Use my snips to clean the thing off. Watch for any wee flying bits. Now generally when I'm doing this, I'm using a pair of safety glasses, have hanging up here, but for the purpose of the video I left them off. Use a nail punch. Again, it's a nail punch which I have sharpened the point on it, and that allows me to put a hole in the band, which allows me to use a nail. Nails, I like to use what's called a ring shank nail. Now it'd be very hard to pick up in the video maybe, but the nail has little rings around it, and what that does is increases the grip. The normal smooth nail will generally pull. As the Hurley gets wet, it expands. The timber will expand, the fibres get bigger, the gaps between the fibres become looser, and that will cause the nail to loosen. So that's one side. Again, I'm pulling on the band, with this hand pulling on it, and then banging this down into place. Trim off any excess. Again, you have to trim off the excess. If you don't, you'll be leaving sharp edges. Any sharp edges can cause cuts and are just very dangerous for both the player with the Hurl and any players that he's playing against. So again, bend it over, using the punch, put a hole in it. As you can see, the punch is holding it in place for me. Get my nail. Again, another one of these ring shank nails. These nails are approximately 20mm in length, and they have a large head. I finish off. Give it a bang all around. Make sure the band is tight on all sides. And final job, make sure there's no rough edges. Give it a little rub with a file. And what that will do is it'll just assure that we're happy. So the banding then, as you can see from the band on the Hurl, you can pick it up. As you can see, the little staples all the way down along it, hold it in place. Same on the reverse side. And where the Hurl was cracked coming along here, you can see the band has actually stretched over the top foot and pulled it together. Now, due to the way this Hurley was broke, you can see the crack comes all the way along to here. This will need a second band placed further up the head of the Hurley, and in order to do that, I will do it in the exact same method. So I hope you found this little tutorial of some use on banding, why we use it, and how to fix them, and look out for my next instalment, which will be coming shortly. Thank you.